conceptual perspective to view things. People talk about it, Saturday success, all of the elements.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick here, dropping in on you. Hope everybody is having an unbelievable start to your week. Look, there are a bunch of things that I want to kind of talk to you about, and hopefully I'll make it make sense. You know how I am. The whole gossip thing, the whole getting everybody's business thing just for the sake of having something to talk about isn't my thing. If it was my thing, I'd probably definitely have more subscribers, and be generating a lot more on this particular channel. My goal for this channel initially was to ensure that I provided meaningful content in the way of empowerment for my people. I have since integrated a part of my business content into it to provide individual empowerment, individual self-improvement, individual elevation. And so that's what that is. But I can tell you that my goal is always going to be to take a certain situation and make it make sense, make it to where you can understand exactly what's going on, because I believe that one of the biggest issues we have is we don't understand how things work. You've heard me say that constantly because it is so true. Before I get started, those who have followed and know me, those who are aware of what's going on and believe in what I do, support us. We need your support. We're in the middle of a fundraiser. The link to support the work we do is in the description box. For those of you who are unfamiliar with who I am and what I do, the organization's official website link is in the box. You can go and look at what we've done for years. You can see everything that I've contributed. If you want to know what I've contributed as an individual and as a person, the link to my bio is at the bottom of the description box. Whatever happens, we need your support. With that being said, look, everybody's up in arms. Everybody's tripping out about what's going on with Kanye West. Kanye West, first of all, is in an entirely different class bracket, entirely different bracket of what's going on. So his realities aren't our realities. And yes, he's a celebrity, and because we have given so much gravity to celebrity versus true influencers like parents, like teachers, like spiritual leaders, he's got the platform, he's got the floor. Everybody's listening to what he says. Why? Solely because he had a gift in something and he did well with it and he gained notoriety, and so now he has a platform. I'm not here to speak against or for Kanye. What I am here to talk about is somebody that I know that has proven themselves over time to be an enemy of the people while pretending to be a champion of the people, and that's Roland Martin. And I want to talk about something specific that a colleague, a friend of mine, who also happens to be a filmmaker, who has done full-length movies, a filmmaker, Tony Lindsay, talked about yesterday how quick Roland Martin is to call black men stupid when they step outside of the boxes of the status quo parameters of the Dems. Blacks that trumpet Dems as the saviors of black people concern me. No, I don't buy into the idea of a supreme dichotomy that forces me to choose between Republican and Democrat. Me having issue and taking issues with stuff that Democrats do does not in any way align me with Republicans. I'm looking for people who are going to serve specific needs and interests that concern me as an individual, my family, and my race. It's that simple. I'm not concerned with a party, I'm concerned with action. And the problem is when you consistently vote for a specific party without demanding anything or holding them accountable or making them commit to being able to deliver on specific agendas and situations that you can hold them accountable on, you end up with nothing consistently. And we've had that for 60 years. And the thing is, now they've become so lazy that they don't even take time to develop false strategies anymore. Their strategies for gaining the support of blacks and keeping the 90% support of the black community. Yes, we have for 60 years voted at a rate of 90% for Dems, and we've got nothing in return. Not saying you jump ship and go to Republicans. I'm saying that you have every candidate come to you and tell you specifically what they're going to do. Have it in writing. Have it down. It doesn't mean that when you're in there, if you don't have the ability to move in power and in economic influence by lobbying and doing a bunch of other things, that it's just going to automatically happen. But what it does do is say that, hey, this is who you said you were, and this is who you are. So now people have these things we look at. All you're looking for is a feeling. They gave you the feeling when you elected them. They gave you the feeling with all the little smooth talk they like doing. And why am I talking about that? Because I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm talking about here we are on the verge of another election and about to make the same mistake again solely because they know the cards to play. And the first thing they do is they send out their little trumpeteers like Roland Martin to come out and say what you want to about Kanye. And I definitely don't agree with some of the things he's done. I don't agree with some of the things he says, but there's some things that he's brought up that you have to be willing to address. And that's the problem is nobody's even talking about it. See, I've watched Roland Martin do this before, and Tony brought this up. I've watched Roland Martin do this multiple times. Anytime there's a black man speaking on something that does not put the Dems in a positive light, he comes running and the first word out of his mouth is stupid. Because someone doesn't agree with you doesn't make them stupid. Because someone doesn't take the same line of thought that you do or assume the same path doesn't make them stupid. Stupid is a word that people use in an argument when they have no true, reasonable, or logical response. When what you're saying is actually accurate, the response is stupid. And the response, and what you don't understand is when Roland Martin does that things, he's not only calling that black man, Dr. Lamar Johnson, Tariq Nasheed, and some other ones, he's not only calling them stupid, he's assuming that his audience is stupid enough not to understand the dynamic at play. And automatically flow solely off of emotion. And you know where he got that from? That's the Dem playlist. That's the playbook for the Dems. Get them emotionally charged and use the words racist a lot. Whenever referring to anything Republican or conservative associated with racism, and so when you say Republican, the idea of racism automatically pops up. And the dynamic that's naturally created when you create that narrative like that, you create what's called a polarity, a mental or neurological polarity. What does that mean? That means that because I've associated Republicans with racism, it means Democrats aren't. Now, deep down inside, you know there's a bunch of Democrats that have racist mindsets and have operated in ways that did not serve the black community. But the natural neurological polarity says, well, since this is the narrative of racists and there are opposites, then they can't be racist by nature. And the truth of the matter is there's no such things. When you look at the right wing and the left wing, the right wing being Republicans, the left wing being Democrats, you move either stream right or stream left or anywhere in between, you're looking at two wings belonging to the same bird, and that bird has been shitting on black people since we got here. And the sooner we get an understanding of that the system was never created to serve us. You got to understand, when the Constitution was put into place, we were still slaves. Even when we instituted the 13th Amendment, it didn't give us full rights as citizens. It still didn't eliminate completely slavery. That's why you have mass incarceration. That's why even at the very end of slavery, at the end of slavery, in the earlier parts, that you had convict leasing. They found a way. They always if you haven't read Slavery by Another Name, you need to read that book. If you haven't read The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, I think it's Michelle Alexander, but if you haven't read it, you definitely need to read that book. We have consistently fallen for the same okie doke. Again, I'm not championing one way for someone who can't relate any longer to the things that I have to deal with. And I'm not by any stretch dealing with what most of my people are dealing with. But I'm definitely not anywhere close to what he has going on. And I'm not hating on him because he has it going on, but I understand in order to get there, there's a certain mindset that you have to have. And that's okay. What I am getting at is he brought up some valid points. He brought up some valid points, and them simply turn around and pull the trigger. He upset people. And my thing is, let me tell you something. There are certain people that if you see them moving and acting, something bothers them. There's a term, an old adage, and you've more than likely heard it. Says elephants don't swat flies. What does it mean? You don't sweat the small stuff. So if you've got certain groups responding and moving and demanding and saying we cutting down, we shutting off, he hit something. He hit a nerve that shook something. The fact that Roland comes running, hollering stupid, 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 is because he hit something and some phone calls were made, and Roland has to prove his loyalty to the people who have fed him the entire time. Again, my issue didn't start with Roland until it was so obvious that he's not looking at anything from a critical thought perspective. He's looking at it from a damn loyalty perspective. And that's a problem. You can never be so loyal to anything that you don't take a look at what's going on and how it's impacting you. Your loyalty should be to your best interests. And if you're saying you're representing a people, then your loyalty has to be to the best interests of the people. And if you're looking at something, you've got to be willing to observe and evaluate and be honest. From the point in time that the Civil Rights Act was enacted and the Voters' Right Act was enacted, we're talking 60 years. And over that 60 years, every presidential cycle except the one where Donald Trump was elected, we increased voter turnout. Despite all this stuff going on about people not being allowed to vote, we increased voter turnout every presidential election cycle. And we voted 90% Democrat. Most blacks vote straight Democratic ticket. Now, here's the thing. Socioeconomically, we're actually worse off than we were 60 years ago. Home ownership, pretty much exactly where it was in 1960. We haven't gained any ground in that. The wealth gap is widening. The poverty line has dropped. Do you know what the poverty line is and how many blacks are under it? And that's the crazy thing, is that the poverty line is so low. You would think, okay, the way they are trying to do it, it would really put most blacks over the poverty line. But the poverty line is crazy. The poverty line for one person is $12,000. Nobody can live off $12,000 a year, but you got people there. The wealth gap is widening. Instead of us closing the gap, we're doing everything to look like we're closing the gap. We look good but wealth ownership, no, we're not winning. There are things that are happening that are devaluing even those of us who are taking the proper steps to develop and build wealth. I do wealth building Wednesdays on Wednesday, and there are people who are practicing that, and they're not getting the same traction as non-blacks, as whites, and other groups. Why? There's literally a system where Black homeowners are finding that when they're getting their homes appraised for resale, that is appraising significantly lower than comparable properties owned by whites. That's something that can be controlled by Dems in the most cities with the highest crime rates are cities that are under Democratic administrations. We have to be willing to look at this and sit up and say something's going on. This doesn't mean that the Republicans have the answer. It doesn't mean that the Republicans are right. What it means is we can't just automatically just keep giving Dems a pass. And we can't sit up and let their cronies come run at us and get us emotionally stirred up and pointed at something and we still don't get anything. All they're doing right now is getting us riled up enough to get us to the polls. They got us mad at Kanye. They got us mad. It's racist this, racist that. Get you at the poll, vote straight Democrat. Then you don't hear from them again. They're not going to stop by your church. You don't see them until election time at your church. But they're going to be there and they're going to have greased pastor's hand or said something nice or invited him into some sections of social circles that he wants to get into to allow them to come in, and he's going to endorse that. And then you're going to go out and vote for it, and you're going to get absolutely nothing in return for it. At some point, we have to get smart. At some point, we have to actually sit up and say, you know what? This hasn't worked. So it's not about sitting up and saying this. First of all, if you only make up 13.8, 14% of the population, you're not heavily impacting anything on a national level, no matter what they tell you. Your greatest chances on immediate relief is at the local level, where you can literally stand in city council, where you can literally go to the mayor's office, where you can literally sit up and rally the people of your community together and apply pressure economically, apply pressure socially, use the media to apply pressure. And on that level, when it comes to national, you're going to have some sort of economic force and unity that comes in and knows how to connect with others and create allies to move stuff in your favor. But you're going to have to understand that simply giving away a vote to say I voted because so many people died for the vote. Not many people actually died for the vote. People were being water hosed and done a lot of things for civil rights, but it wasn't simply about the vote. And you got to understand that the vast majority of us had the right to vote from the 13th Amendment. Almost 100 years before the Civil Rights Act. There were several places that were heavily influenced in Alabama, Mississippi, a couple of other places, Georgia, a couple of other places where there was all kind of things going on to interfere with the right to vote. So the Voters' Rights Act wasn't saying that blacks could vote. It was saying that you couldn't inhibit them from executing their right to vote. And we have to understand that. And that was just one part of the civil rights movement. It was one part of what was going on. But here it is. Now that we give this immense value to this right to vote, then that vote has value. Then you don't just spend it carelessly, right? That's the part that gets me about the whole voting argument, is that this is so valuable because so much was sacrificed to get it. Okay, if it's that valuable, stop giving it away. Make people earn it. Put it in your pocket until somebody gives you something for it. It's the only place I can think of where somebody says something valuable, they give it away for free. It can't be that damn valuable if you keep giving it away. Make it make sense. You say it's one of the most valuable things that you have, but you'll fight over $1 before you fight over that vote. You want to know what you get for your dollar. I mean, man, that's all I'm getting for $1? But you'll give the vote away that's so precious that people supposedly died for. You better learn how to leverage it. You better learn how to leverage every little piece of power you have, because it's the only way you're going to develop and build more. But this whole Roland thing when are we gonna check this clown? I mean, and get me, this isn't easy for me. Number one, Roland is a Houstonian. Number two, Roland is from a historically significant school in Jack Yates High School. And I think at some point he did some unbelievable things. I think that you can get so caught up and nobody wants to bite the hand that feeds them, and nobody understands how to balance it. We've seen what Steve Harvey has done to stay in the graces of those that provide his wealth and allow him to eat well. He's mastered it, and he's insisted that others do it as well. I believe he told Monique, the hell with integrity was his thing when she was talking about this, about integrity. He said, the hell with integrity, you got to eat. And I'm like, did he just say that on national television? And he decided to chastise her in front of his white, predominantly white audience, which was interesting as well. But it's amazing now that to see her actually starting to come out and experience some victories in that. And again, this might not be championing the way she did it and how things happen, but sometimes you got to fight, and you fight the way you know how to fight. And sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes a lot of people aren't going to like it. But you have to stand on what you believe in. And that's one thing that I am real big on, standing what you believe in. Sometimes you're going to stand alone, but I'd rather stand alone in what I believe in than to fold and give to something just to be accepted, just to find a sense of relief. And a lot of people aren't like that, though. So when you see the Rolands and the Joy Reids and the others, they're looking out for them. And the way they look out for them is to make us believe they're looking out for us, and they are thinking for us because they're telling us what we don't know. And see, a lot of people will buy that you can't possibly understand all this stuff that I know. So it's up to me to tell you what to do. Vote Dems. Vote straight ticket. That the idea that something can't become corrupted is absolutely crazy. So just the idea that, we're the good guys, they're the bad guys, vote for us. And we've seen what it done. We got a president in office that everybody's quiet about this clown. Number one is blacks were willing to give him a pass when he decided to run for president. Because once he got the nomination and he was going to be the Democratic, he's Democrat. Doesn't matter that it was his crime bill that put a bunch of our kids in prison behind minor drug offenses, and turned around and when it started happening in white communities, said it was an illness and demanded treatment. So they decriminalized the very thing they imprisoned so many blacks for during the 80s and 90s during the crack epidemic. They disproportionalized the punishment for possession of cocaine, with crack getting a more severe penalty than powder cocaine. Why? Crack is more likely going to be found in poor communities. The predominance of the poor community is black. Powder cocaine is normally found on Wall Street, among the wealthy, among those who can afford it at that price. And we're not supposed to know that. We're not supposed to understand that. We're not supposed to see the disparity and polarity in that. We're just supposed to sit up and say, it's okay. This is what happens. And what we'll sit up and say is, you shouldn't be doing that anyway. The problem is we keep throwing our people away on that you shouldn't have been doing it anyway, while they're saving theirs. Eventually, all of ours are thrown away. All of theirs are saved. And guess who wins? I'm not saying giving anybody a pass for doing bull crap. I'm not saying let nobody make it for causing problems and creating situations in the neighborhood. What I am sitting up saying is we need to be more aware of how things are done and how things are set up on a social level. That this is a social construct, this is not just a happenstance. There's way too much empirical data that tells me what happens when you create certain situations inside a community or a neighborhood environment. I can tell you how much crime is going to take place by how the poverty level is. I can tell you, if I take away jobs, I'm going to increase poverty. I increase poverty, I'm going to increase crime. Criminology 101. Sociology 101. It's real simple. You understand it. If I want to reduce crime, reduce lack. A great deal of crime is always associated with the inability to get the things that you need and the things you desire. If you take away that by providing means and methods, you do. The problem is the moment that you open up the gate to means and methods, you also open up the gateway to wealth. And if you open up the gateway to wealth and the people who are the masses start to accumulate wealth, then the very thing that creates the power is the wealth. Then you start to relinquish your power. So the way I maintain my power, the way I maintain my control is by ensuring that there's lack. And in that lack, there's criminality. Now I've monetized the criminality because now there's the private prison industrial complex. There's now literally billions of dollars being made off of labor inside of prisons. Hell, just housing one inmate is $40,000 a year. You actually think they spend $40,000 on that inmate? Hell no. The median income for the black man is $44,000 a year. The median income for the black woman is $40,000 a year. We know what it is like to sit up and have to make things happen. And you mean to tell me you getting $40,000 just for having somebody in a 6x9, feeding them franks and sausages and beans, and then making them work to earn money? So you're doubling? And here's the thing. This was done and promoted under that vice president, Harris. She is on record as being against the legalization of marijuana in California because it would reduce the amount of incarcerations, which would reduce the amount of free labor. This comes out of her mouth. Oh, she did a whole bunch of other things. I'm talking about we co-signed them solely because they were Democrats. And people like Roland were running around telling us that's what was up and talking about all the good stuff they did. Hell, Kamala was so bad that I did a report on her and I kept my opinion out of it. I polled anti-Kamalas and Kamalas. Do you realize that even the people who were supporting her that were honest said that I support her, but she's really going to have to answer for the way she handled things in California. A lot of the decisions she made, especially about black men and incarceration. These are the people who were saying they're her supporters. Look, we keep giving way too much power to the voices that don't serve us, while the voices that provide solutions, the voices that provide direction, the voices that give us true insight, that is framed with our interests in mind, are pushed to the side, stepped on, minimalized, marginalized, attacked, because there's literally profit in keeping us poor. There's profit in keeping us at bay. There's profit in keeping us unaware of how things work. We give away way too much. If the vote is that valuable, then you should get something extremely valuable in exchange for it. Just saying a Democratic candidate won is not anything of intangible value. Tangible value. There's no intrinsic value in the black community for a Democrat getting in office, white or black. It doesn't matter what color they are. It provides nothing. The time for symbolism is over. There's no victory in symbolism. There's no advance or progression in symbolism. Symbolism has a place. It's inspirational. It gives you a sense of a feeling of well-being, but it does not provide for you the things that are absolutely necessary for you to be able to progress. You actually have to learn how things work. You actually have to get in the game. You actually have to be accountable for your own well-being. You actually have to be in a position to understand what a good choice is. You can't make good choices when you don't understand what the choices are. There's far too many easy ways to solve the problem in the black community. The fact that it isn't solved tells me that there are people working to ensure that it isn't. It's far too easy. One of the things that I've learned is there's a lot of sleight of hand, a lot of illusion, where they pump millions of dollars into programs to give the illusion that they're working on things, that they're really investing in things. But the programs don't work. The programs have major holes. The program has major cracks. I've done assessments on the programs and showed where they don't work and why they don't work. And they understand. They've done the same research I've done. They know why the programs don't work. They know the gaps. They know why they can put money in there and they can spend a bunch of time doing something that doesn't work because the very key elements that make it work have been removed. You take a gun, you can put bullets in it, you can keep it clean. If you remove the firing pin, it's worthless. And they understand that. On the flip side, programs that are being created, like the programs that I've created from my work research, they work. The problem is there's only so much resources to go around, so there's only so many people we can reach. But the people we're reaching, we're having massive impacts. There's a reason why I'm constantly getting an influx of people who need us and want to work with me, because what I create works. Socializing, that, put it like this, forget the fact that I created Black Men Lead for a second. Every other group has a rite of passage. Nobody asks why. It's not just historical. It's not just traditional. It's not just a part of heritage. It's a part of development. A rite of passage is simply the celebration of something they've been taught to that point about being who they are. Being a man, being a woman, comes from a development of an understanding of what a man is to my community, what a man is to my race, what a man is to the heritage that I come from. And I have to live up to the standard of manhood. I have to live up to the standard of womanhood. We don't have that. We don't even have a universal definition of what a man is. Everybody's defining manhood based off of what they think they excel at. Most people now are defining manhood based on whether or not you got the bag. It don't take a good man to get the bag. It just takes somebody that's on the grind or the hustle to get the bag. What else are you bringing to the table that you can sow into the community? What else are you bringing to the table that you can empower the women? What else are you bringing to the table that you can empower other brothers? What else are you bringing to the table that you can protect and grow and establish a new space for our children that's safe, that empowers them and prepares them to go out into a world that's inherently hostile towards them and not only compete but win? What are we bringing to the table other than the bag? Now, everything is about the bag and the body. The man's got the bag because that's what the woman wants. The woman's working on the body because that's what the man wants. It's a bunch of BBLs and a bunch of bags, and ain't nobody getting jack done. But it's amazing that I've been in some debates. I have really cut down debating. I have no desire to prove my intellectual prowess, my knowledge, awareness, or anything else I know. I use what I know to teach. I moved away from the debate, but I've been in enough of them to watch and know when I've won by how people respond. As long as a person is coming with an opposing viewpoint from a rational position that I have not yet successfully rebutted or challenged, we have a good debate going on. When the insults start to hurl, I've won. You don't have anything else. So now I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. I'm dumb. I'm all these things because there's nothing left. So when I see insults coming in place of solutions and alternatives, it tells me you can't challenge what you were upset with hearing. And your response is to degrade, marginalize, minimalize, and alienate the person, hoping people won't listen. The thing is, how about addressing what the person brought up in an intellectual, reasonable, rational, and strategic way that says, no, that's crazy, this is how it should be done, and this is why it should be done, and here are all of the variables so you can check it out. That's not what's being done. They get talking points. They make the point, and they establish, because I am media, I'm right, and you need to listen to me. Stop listening. Start checking. Start reading. Start studying. Start learning. Start looking at things collectively. Because one of the biggest accomplishments that the system has made is getting us to be divided. Thinking as individuals, thinking alone. So many splinters, so many separations, so many divisions, so many schisms that we literally can't operate in unison long enough to get anything done. And it's on purpose. That's the scary part, is that we're being played over and over and over again. It's time for us to grow up. It's time for us to evolve. It's time for us to look at things. And we don't need to consult Kanye. We don't need to consult Candace. We also don't need to consult Roland. We don't need to consult anybody else. We need to come together with a mindset of an agenda that we need to see worked out. And we need to demand anybody that says they want that valuable vote that we hold so dear to the fire for bringing something to us tangible, something of intrinsic value, something that we can literally say we know this is going to advance our people. Blacks are about to run to the poll. Starting yesterday in some states, I know here the early voting has started. They're running to the polls now. And they're literally going to vote under an administration, straight Democratic ticket, where this man told you and his vice president told you, we're not giving you anything specifically. We're not giving anything specific to blacks. We're not going to deal with them specifically, just them. But they've done it for other groups. They've sent somewhere 50 to 60 billion already to the Ukraine. We still haven't gotten a dime for the suffering of our ancestors and the suffering of the lineage that came out of that up to now, because it's not like the infringements and the encroachments upon our freedoms and our liberties stopped in 1865. We're still dealing with them now. They're still systemic. They're still integrated into policies and laws on the corporate level and in government. And we haven't gotten a dime. That's not a handout. That's owed to us. That's a violation of our human rights, our civil rights, and our ability to earn compensation for work rendered. And yet we're going to go right out there and vote for them and then think we can talk to them about reparations after the fact. How many times is the pigeon drop going to work on you before you realize you're getting took? Again, I told you in the beginning when I started this, over 10 years ago. Man, it's been longer, 12 years ago. Wow. When I started this over 12 years ago, I told you I'm not here for the likes. I'm not here to be popular. I'm not here to be liked. I don't need anybody to stroke my ego. I don't need any of that. I know who I am. Every day I work on being the best version of me, so I don't ever have to ask anybody to validate me. I'm not here for that. I'm here to tell the truth. And the beautiful thing about not needing to be liked or validated means that I don't have to succumb to what I think people want to hear. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be loving because I love my people. And the passion and the love I have for my people is true and real. So I'm never going to be mean-spirited and derogatory towards my people. But I'm going to be painfully honest and direct. I don't have time to beat around the bush, but I'm going to be very loving and caring in the way I say it. But I'm going to tell you the truth. It's time to stop being the fall guy. It's time to stop being the fool. It's time to stop letting people tell us what we should think and for us to start thinking. Even when it comes to what I'm telling you now. Read it, research it, check it. Now, there are certain people I just listen to because I've checked them so much and they've been on so true that if they say it, I trust it because that's just who they are. And if you've gotten that way with me, then cool. But if not, you need to be checking. But you still need to have your own knowledge of stuff. You still need to read. You still need to learn. You still need to have an understanding of how things work. Look, I'm going to get off of here. I wasn't even planning to go in this deep, but I really needed to touch on that. I really needed to get it set up and put out. So I didn't do it live because I wanted to really sit down and have my thoughts flowing without worrying about any other energy. Because everybody that shows up is not there for the positive. They're not there to be a part of the solution. Some people are showing up to throw wrenches and everything else and things. So again, on that note, I'm out of here. You guys who believe in the work we do, we really need your support. Go to the description box, click the link, and show some love. If you want to give via Cash App, the organization's Cash App account handle is in the description box as well. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day.